I'm here because my grandfather told me to, but I'm also here because like I am the only one that can do this job. Like I need to be the one that consumes these fingers.
What is going on, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of all ages? Welcome back to the AoA show. I'm your host, as always, Ian, along with my boy, Isaiah.
Yo, what's up?
And Gavin couldn't be with us today because of work. So we're holding down the fort today, and we are talking about the long-requested Jujutsu Kaisen, which we are super stoked to talk about because there are 3 episodes out at the time of recording. And we were like, all right, you know what? Let's give it a shot. We're doing some things today. I love it. I'm not gonna lie, I really like it a lot. Because we were skeptical, you know. It was like seems like another just average time. You're a high school student that has to fight demons or like whatever. But this one just got like it's like they do it well. I have to say. I mean, there's nothing that makes it where it's like this is the most standout thing I've ever seen. But it still does very well what it's intending to do, and I think that's the strength of this.
Definitely.
But yeah, we're going to talk about our thoughts on the matter. Whether you agree or disagree, let us know in the comments down below. Also make sure you guys are liking, subscribing, hitting that notification bell so you stay up to date, and you could refer to our description where we have links to all the ways that you could support this channel. We greatly appreciate it. But anyway, hopping right into this discussion. So like I said, we watched 3 episodes of this so far. And I have to say, like right off the rip, first episode, I was pretty hooked, man. I like our characters whose names I already forgot, so bear with me because we literally just watched this and there was a lot going on. But I think there's a good amount of comedy along with the Mappa animation that we know and love, like the God of High School, you know, like they have those elements, like when their sensei was fighting the demon, you know, or whatever, the curse. That whole fight sequence was just incredible in the 10 seconds that we got. It's a good mix. The characters are not too many right now, but the ones I've seen are pretty likable, or if they're not like, you know, your favorites, it's like you don't despise them, right? They each have their own little things going on. And I like the soundtrack a lot as well. I really dig the OP. I really dig the ED, and not necessarily because of the song for the ED, which this is rare for me, but because of the actual animation that accompanies the song. Totally up my alley, man. It's great. But I don't know. What do you think? What were your first impressions?
I fucked with it too. I think going in, my main concern, let's call it, sort of, you know, echoing what you said, right, was like how much of a copy pasta is this going to be? Is this going to be, you know, super strong, you know, super talented high school boy, you know, lives his average ordinary life, then gets bitten by a demon and now has to go fight demons, you know, and then insert your stereotypes or whatever, wherever you need to, which like, to be fair, so this is what's weird to me about this show, is like, it does do that, right? Like, there aren't a lot of like groundbreaking, revolutionary things, but again, like, in my mind, if you can take the established formula that you're using and like apply it well, and like, this is entertainment at the end of the day, like, it does do those things well. Itadori is like, as protagonist-y as protagonists get, right? He's like this super cool, laid-back dude, disgustingly talented at like athletics and just moving and like all that shit, but he's also like got a good head on his shoulders, you know, he's really kind, he's got like good friends, he likes having fun, like, you know what I mean? He's a protagonist, he's an anime protagonist, and you know, not that you see them a whole lot, but like his school group of friends, you know, they're all pretty cool and they're good enough for as far as setting up the whole demon thing. And then once we meet I believe Goro is the sensei's name, and the rest of the crew, they sort of all end up flushing out into a really well-established team. Again, I've accepted my fate as the nigga who compares everything to Naruto. I got mad Team 7 vibes from these guys. Like, you know, his homie at the Fushigaru.
Yes.
It like definitely feels like a Sasuke. Just saying. Itadori with his like, you know, robust, like over the top, proud, like I'm gonna save everybody because I can type beat. We got that episode which gave us a little bit of Borar's backstory, but not, you know, we learned enough about her, I think, at least for me now, to be like, okay, so that's how she fits into the squad. And Goro's just a fucking delight, dude. Like, you get the total vibe that like he is the senior here. He is the one who's been running for a minute. the scene where he, when he's first introduced, where he's like, oh, look at all these, tasty souvenirs I bought and stuff. But like in a split second is like, hold on, my students here, like I gotta show off a little bit, and just starts whooping this dude's ass, dude. You said it before, but like the Sakuga in this show, A1. The way that these fights are choreographed, like the way that like impacts feel and like the sound, all of it, everything. I mean, like this was coming from Mappa, right? Who did God of High School, etc. And I've never so that wasn't ever, I guess, really a concern for me. But like, nobody, I can't hate on getting good eye candy, which is exactly what it was. But yeah, we watched 3 episodes, the first 3 episodes that are out right now. I really fucked with it.
Yeah. So because I have a phone in front of me because I'm cheating, but just so nobody hops down our throat in the comments, and you were way better than I was at remembering names. Gojo with a J, is the name, and Nobara.
Gotcha.
For the girl, but you were spot on with the other 2, so congrats on that. Was better than I would have done. I'm cheating right now, but let's hop into the actual. I mean, I know you just did, and you said, I hate to be the guy that compares everything to Naruto, but I'm not gonna lie, I had the same vibe. A very, but it's still good. It does everything it needs to, and it definitely has its own spin to it. They're not copy pasta necessarily. The dynamic is, though. You know what I mean? And like even down to some of the character design a little bit. Especially with Gojo with his blindfold, which I love. By the way, he's just a fantastic character, and I love his design. But let's hop into some of the characters a little bit and what we like or maybe dislike about them. So our first and foremost protagonist Kun here, we have Itadori. Who is just your kind of naive, but, ridiculously strong for God knows what reason. He literally whipped a shot put like a baseball and broke the world record by like 10 meters. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, okay, he's got to, here's my thing. I think he definitely has something beyond the, I just ate a finger and now I have like the ultimate 100%. Thing. He has to, because even his grandfather in the beginning is like, I got to tell you something about your parents. And then when he says, when his grandfather passes, he said, this is the first time I've ever experienced this. So you have to assume he does not live with his parents, obviously, but he never witnessed them die, or he never, had to go through that loss, right? So they were either out of his life from the rip, or I don't know what was going on with them, but I think there's something up, because you don't just like smash a world record, like multiple world records as a high school student, just on a whim. Like on a whim. And he's like, nah, I'm actually just going to join the occult club, and it's just like, dude, stop. Like, what do you do? You could literally play NFL football as a side hobby. Like, do you understand that? Like, you could literally do a professional sport as a side hobby and be totally fine. So ridiculous. But I mean, which was funny because, like I said, it gives me the Naruto Team 7 vibes, but it has definitely is a different thing where like Naruto is like shunned everything. This guy's like, nah, I'm just kind of the GOAT right off the rip, and it's like, it's kind of funny. But he's got this lovable personality about him. You've seen it before. Just like ridiculous. You just kind of got to roll with the punches there. I like Fushi. I'm just calling him Fujigoro. I like his ability as well. He even used hand signs at the one point, and summons the Shinigami to his side. His was a really cool one. And then we just got our introduction to Nobara in the 3rd episode. We had like basically not the whole thing, but majority of the episode was centered around her. Yeah. And at first she's like, it's like, yo, pump the brakes, lady. You know what I mean? She's like,
a little assertive.
You look like a potato. And she's like, you look like this, blah, blah. And like, she thinks she's all hot crap. But like, I like her weapon of choice, how it's like the hammer nail thing. And I think it's like kind of symbolic in that regard, because she has like the doll that she does as well. I don't know. I think it's a cool, like, ability, and I was not expecting that at all, because we saw dog guy, then we saw, I have a demon inside me, even though I didn't even need one, and then whatever. But I don't know. Out of the 3 right now, do you have a particular one that you're leaning towards?
I think if I had to pick one, to be honest, dude, if I had to pick one character out of the 4 of them,
it's the sensei.
It's the sensei.
I gotta agree.
Because don't get me wrong,
Gojo.
like, the other 3 are great, and just for the reasons alone that you've expressed, like, they all clearly sort of have their own little notch in this story here, and even in this team. But he's like, at least right now, obviously, like, he's the complete package, right? Sure. He's like super funny, and he's like lighthearted, and he's not afraid to fuck around and like goof with people, and like, oh, let's go get some sushi and like whatever. But he will whoop ass on a dime if he has to, and can whoop ass, because even in I think it's episode 2, when Goro, right? Sensei?
Gojo.
Mm-hmm. is taking Itadori to the jujitsu school. He's like, all right, I'm going to train you up or whatever. You're going to go where we went to learn jujitsu or to learn jujitsu from Jujutsu Tech. He's talking to him about the demon that he, what's that demon's name?
Good question.
Kunda?
Sakuna.
Sukuna. When he's talking to him about him, he's like, yeah, you got to consume all 20 fingers so that, like, basically once you do that, like, we're going to kill you because you will be the demon, basically.
Sure.
And he's like, well, with that demon at his full power, like, between him and you, who do you think would win? And he's like, I'd break a sweat, but I'd win. It's like, dude, the balls on this man, bro. Like, he has no fear. And I love how... I love the, I guess, like, gimmick, if you want to call it that, with this whole show's setup here with being like a jujitsu sorcerer, where it's like, it's not just like, oh, you've got ghost powers? Cool. Like, put on this coat and come whoop demon ass with us. It's like, there is a setup here where it's like, no, even people who, like, can see ghosts and become a jujitsu sorcerer, like, quit after a while because they can't handle, like, the stress or, like, I forget how the sensei put it, but, like, basically it's like they can't handle like facing death
like fear
or like
and disgust.
Yeah. And so, but what I like about that is it sets up that, like, off the bat, a lot of these, at least the accomplished sorcerers, are, like, a little bit fucked up. Like, they're a little crazy because he even says it. He's like, you've got to be a little crazy to do this, and you've got to be, like, super fucking talented and, like, on your shit. But, like, you've also got to have some screws loose because, like, you're going to see some gross shit, and normal niggas would lose their minds. So I like that there's, like, this implication going in that it's like, yeah, to go balls in on this demon world thing, like, you've got to kind of be like, yeah, regular life is boring, and, like, and want that. But I like him the most, I think, because he... above, again, being like the sensei type and that he's sort of like the best package here. He doesn't seem, and, again, like, he's not that he is, he clearly is cocky, he's full of himself, and I think he has a little bit of reason to be like that, but he's not, like, arrogant, or he's not, with the power he has, he's not like, all right, all these other sorcerers are clearly beneath me, like, I don't even, he's, like, all about, like, let's get a team together, let's, like, and he has that wholesome, like, sensei, senpai kind of vibe. I think my favorite episode so far, of the 3 we watched, was probably 2, because I love the scene with Itadori getting into the school, like the exam he has to take with the principal. One, because it actually hit me harder than I thought it was going to hit me, because there were moments when we both sat down and watched all 3 episodes together. There were moments when we were watching it where I'm like, oh, okay, and then he's going to do this thing because he has to do that. Like, right, like, I feel like you've seen enough anime, you can call the beats, but I think it says something when, even after me, like, predicting right or knowing what was going to happen, for that thing to happen and me be like, okay, like, it, like, still kind of hits you as hard. So
yeah, I agree. I love that. I think that was my favorite episode as well, and I agree with all the points you said, especially when they were entering the school. I love how they're just abundantly honest with the fact that it's like, you gotta be a little nuts to go into this profession because you're gonna see some stuff. I also love how willing that Itadori is to just straight up yeet away from his current school, his entire life, like, everything. He's just like, and I mean, it makes sense, right? Because it's like, he virtually, besides his friends, which are relevant, but I mean, like, he has, like, no family, like, blood family that we know of left. So to be fair, if anyone were to have to separate themselves, like, he probably had it the easiest I would assume, out of some of the other teammates that he has, but I'm curious. I also want to get into, I think it's fun to throw some potential predictions out there right off the rip, because I know nothing, and that's what makes it funny. Okay, number 1, I predict that, I'm predicting that Itadori, when in his Sukuna state, is going to kill Gojo.
Really?
Sorry. Yeah, I think that was a foreshadowing that it's like, who do you think would win? And for as much as brass balls as Gojo has, like, he hesitates for a second, and I think he does that to instill a sense of confidence in his pupil, because I don't think, I could be wrong, but I think he wants him to feel confident in himself that it's like, if you like, you're good. But I do think that he low-key is worried, like, very worried about that. And, like, if push came to shove, it'd be a good fight. But, like, I think there might be some sort of growing moment, or I could see it, where he goes into the, Secunda state, by eating X amount of fingers or something, or maybe at the end, and, like, he winds up messing him up or killing him. That's a theory I have, which, like, has no evidence besides literally that one small look that he gave him, and the fact that he hesitated for a split second, and he asked that question. Because I noticed in the show, right, it's like, Okay, I refer to this quote all the time by Anton Chekhov, where it's like, if there's a rifle on the wall in Act 3, it better be fired in Act 4, otherwise what is it doing there type thing. But I seriously, the more I watch anime, TV in general, like, I couldn't agree more with that, and I start to notice that a lot more, and I start to try, even in very small moments of body language or scenes, pick up on something that, and sometimes I could overread something, you know, when like you're in an English class and it's like, what does Shakespeare mean by the curtain is blue? And it's like, you're breaking down like the anatomy of the universe.
Well, what is
like,
blue when you really think about
and
it?
really you ask Shakespeare and he's like, I just said it was blue. I thought you might want clarification on that, right? So it's like, sometimes you read a little too hard into it and you can wind up biting yourself because you make predictions that are just outlandish. But I will say, even in the show, there's a scene, I believe it's in the first and then spans to the second episode, if I'm not mistaken. And it's when his grandfather dies, and they show a quick scene of his hand, real quick, of Itadori's hand. Yes. And I was expecting him to do like the Deku, you know what I mean, where he clenches his hand every scene. But he doesn't, right? It barely even, it doesn't even twitch, I don't even think. And I remember even saying something to you, and I'm like, that's weird that they would highlight that shot for like a split second. It wasn't even that they went there long. It was like literally a second. Yeah. Wait a minute, right? So then, though, he goes later in that episode, he goes and helps Fujigoro, right? He helps him when Fujigoro's like, stay back, right? They show his hand again, it twitches. He goes, okay, maybe I'll go in, blah, blah. And he tells him when he gets in there, he goes, honestly, I was scared of death and I didn't know what to do. And then there's one more time, and I believe it's in the second episode, when he's getting the ashes of his grandfather. And Gojo says, you know, are you going to do this, whatever he's going through? And he finally clenches his fist. And I go, I think that's the resolve. Like, that's when he takes him to the school. And that's when he's like, I'm going to do this for me. You know, afterwards when he goes and meets the principal. And I think I think those scenes, again, could be overreading them, but are relevant to that. Sure, so I think those small hints of body language are the reason that they bring up certain things, like, you know what I mean? Like, who's going to win in a fight, you or him? Slight hesitation. Like, why is that here? You know what I mean? Like, why is he randomly like that? I don't think he's just randomly asking that. Like, there's got to be something with that where they're going to fight. He might not lose. He might actually win. But like, whatever. That's just one prediction I have personally off the rip. I don't know if you had any, I mean, I wouldn't blame you. It's only 3 episodes, but if you had anything to glean from these 3, or you think you have an idea of where the show might go, or you'd like to see it go.
Yeah. I definitely, I like, there's part of that I, agree with, and or like I've spun into my own theory. I do definitely think that moment, when he asked Goro, like, yo, who would win in a fight, you or, and like, I think that moment is significant, and I think it is alluding to the fact that Goro definitely Gojo would want to instill confidence in his students of being like, don't worry about it, like, you're safe, I got you. But I don't really think he knows. I think because right before then, he literally talks this dude all the way up about like, yeah, dude, he was literally like the perfect fighter or whatever, and literally killed so many people that like he basically turned into a real life demon. And he literally even says, he's definitely like the king of demons, like 100%. And it's like, oh, so could you beat him? And it's like, yeah, you know, and it's like, it's not the same thing as like, nah, but like, don't worry about him. It's fine. Like, I think he, again, while not wanting to like scare his students or whatever, does understand the fact that like, if it came to that situation, whether it's him winning at the cost of his life or what have you, that like that fight he might not walk out of. But I think he's prepared for it, to be honest. I think, which is interesting. I think very thematically across these 3 episodes, we've seen moments, you know, so to speak, of Itadori, we've seen Gojo, and we've seen Nobara, right? Nobara. All of them have moments where they falter with this, because there's something that's talked about across these 3 episodes that I think is interesting, and that is like resolve, right? It's fear, hesitation, and resolve. Like, do you have the will to do this job? So I think we see that in Itadori most prominently in what you were talking about, where like after his grandfather dies, when he goes with Fujigaro to the school, he's like sitting outside this gate and he's sort of just watching what happens, and he's thinking about everything that he's experienced, and he's like, well, if I don't go in there and if I don't save these people, like if they die, like I can't pretend like I couldn't have done something about it. I can't pretend like that's not my problem. He has actually that monologue sort of gets expounded upon in the second episode when he's taking the test with the principal, where he has this moment where the principal's like, oh, so you're doing this because somebody told you to. Cool. So if you die, is it that person's fault? Like, what's the problem here? And he has this moment where he then reflects and he's like, no, I'm here because like I'm the only one that can do this. If these people die by these curses and like I'm just sitting here reading manga or doing whatever the fuck and not caring, I'm ignoring them. And by, indirectly, like if I was the only one who could do this job and chose not to, like then that's my fault. That blood is on my hands, so I can't afford not to do this. And I think that, coupled with the obvious weight of his grandfather's last words and his mission, that's where you see Itadori's resolve sort of get like tightened, and hence that scene we're talking about with the hand clench. Like that's where you see him be like, no, this is like I'm here because my grandfather told me to, but I'm also here because like I am the only one that can do this job. Like I need to be the one that consumes these fingers. And we see it in Nobara. And I think in her latest episode, in episode 3, where she has that moment where she's like, all right, so the situation here is this demon has this kid hostage. Like, what are the outcomes here, right? Realistically, if this kid if I die, then this kid's dead, right? But if the kid dies and I live, she's like, realistically, like that would be better because I'm the one out here who's the sorcerer. Like I'm the one who could be saving more lives. But then I think in thinking back to the woman that was like her friend or mentor, I'm still not quite sure what that relationship was, but clearly, it was one that meant a lot to her. And I think from that, she sort of gleaned that, like, if, again, it's this very similar repetition where if she were to turn her back on this kid's life, she would essentially be repeating the same sort of process that those villagers and stuff did to that woman that she liked. So she's like, I can't do that. I can't be like that. If I'm going to do this, I have to do this like the right way, the best way. And so that's why she drops her weapons and is ready to surrender until Itadori breaks a concrete wall with his bare hands, which should not be overlooked because that's crazy. Amongst just for a second, like this man punches through concrete with his bare hands, kicks a school window out with his shoe. I don't know, like, where he gets this thing from. You were saying before, but it's got to be some shit where it's like his grandfather was like half demon and he had that blood in him from the start or whatever, because like high schoolers just aren't built like that, dude. You're not telling me that's a normal high schooler. He's not. He just can't be.
He's built different.
Like people are like, oh, well, he's got this super like natural athletic, and it's like, yeah, emphasis on supernatural, because that's just not normal. But anyway, tangent aside, and I think the last point is with Gojo, yes. You see this again, this idea of resolve in that very scene where he's like, oh, well, okay, this demon you claim to be this strong, like if he was in a fight between the two of you, who would win? And I think that moment of hesitation is exactly that. It's the same thing you see in Itadori when he's at that gate. It's the same thing you see in Nobara when she's contemplating this hostage situation. It's these characters coming to grips with the moment of like, if I do this, like I could die, but if I don't do it, somebody else could die, and that's not right. And like, so that, and he does it, obviously, I think just because of his experience and stuff, his moment is a lot smaller, but no less impactful, where he's like, yeah, I'd win, and it's like, bumps, bro.
Because he doesn't have a choice now.
Yeah, exactly.
Those scenes
so cool.
Those scenes hit really hard. Now that was good picking up on that, because I didn't even notice that at first, but it's cool. I already know that I like the show because we could read into a head nod for 20 minutes. You know what I mean? Like, that's how you know.
We're like, yo, you see the way he pivoted his foot? He's going to die. I'm telling you.
Yeah, like that's how you know that we kind of like this show, at least, So that was interesting. I also am curious with the fingers, right? Because they say, every finger you eat, things are probably he's going to get a little more powerful, right? Because he's got 20.
Yeah.
You ate one. The fact that you could just control him at will is incredible, right off the rip. I also love how they just commandeered him. They're like, no, you're coming with us. Like, you were literally the only person born to do this. Like, you don't have a choice, right? That was funny. But I'm curious because they fed him a second finger in the second episode. So I'm assuming, like, he gets a power up in the sense, like, if he does go into Sukuna mode, that, like, that mode gets even stronger, obviously.
Sure. Yeah.
So they have 6 fingers, he said.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, right?
Force feed him the 6 fingers.
So at first I was like, oh, okay. For a split second, I'm like, okay, just feed him 6, right? But then I'm thinking about it. I'm like, yeah, no, what? Come on. I'm curious as to when they're going to allow him to have the fingers, or if, like, he's going to find them on his own, and then they'll give him the rest or whatever. Because there is, this interesting element of like, okay, how much more powerful is 6 fingers as compared to 2? And like, what are they waiting for? What milestones does he have to hit before he's worthy of getting the next finger, to eat? So I'm curious to see how that plays out for sure. And like, what other, demons and spirits and curses and all that kind of stuff we have on the surface. I also do love in this show that they were able to explain this story through exposition while also interweaving like the progression of the plot and getting you to know all these characters like almost flawlessly. Seriously, because I don't want to turn this into like a comparison episode of other things, but just to name one, God of High School, you know what I mean? Like dealing with pretty fantastical crap here, but like this show in particular has done to me a fantastic job at letting me know what the hell is going on, or at least giving me a grassroots, like bare minimum of what's going on. So at least I could follow along while also progressing the story, incorporating comedy, and getting me to understand these characters, right? All while progressing that story. I have to commend the show for that, because it's not, obviously I'm not like this is the greatest thing since sliced bread, but I really love how they're able to do that. And that is, for me, is a recipe for me, along with everything else of the fantastic animation by Mappa, the soundtrack, all that other stuff we said in the beginning. You got a recipe for something good. So I'm hoping, like, I don't know, where this manga goes, if it's like all of a sudden it like goes crazy, even crazier, but like we're already at like pretty crazy right off the rip. So like, I don't know, how much crazier they can get that much faster. And I don't think they need to, right? You know what I mean? Like, I think they could kind of chill in this power level right here for a while. And like, I'm with it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think you need to rush it, but I don't know.
No, I definitely agree. I think it's impressive in just 3 episodes that we've been able to go off on the tangent that we did. And I think that definitely speaks to how well the intro of this, it's 3 episodes. I don't want to be like, this is the perfect story, but the intro to this story was crafted very well. I think it, like, again, in 3 episodes, for us to be able to pull out these characters, for us to be able to, already be analyzing stuff about their personal, psyches or whatnot, and where the story's going to go, and pulling so many story and lore elements out of just the stuff that we've been shown, is definitely a testament. And I think, again, like you said, not that we're just, everything is comparison to everything else, but when you look at shows like God of High School, it's like clearly there was an emphasis on, in my opinion, wrong, but in a different spot of the show, right? Like, they were, from the gate, it was like about, all right, let's get people enticed by like how funny and wacky and zany and like, Sakuga overload this world can be, without taking a step back and be like, well, wait a minute, who are these characters? Like, why do I care how much Mori can fight? Whatever. Whereas this show, by episode 1, again, it like, not to necessarily like discount away Itadori's disgusting ability to just be amazing at any athletic feat. Because I think, in the back of my mind, even as we were watching, I'm like, okay, at some point, we're going to have to like sit down with this nigga and find out exactly what's going on, because you're not really going to be able to explain that away as like, he's just that good to me. And I'll accept it. But I do think that there's something to be said for, again, in the amount of time that we've had, getting to meet all these characters and like establish them, right? In 3 episodes, we've established 4 characters, which, like, generally, if you look at anime, it's most characters, like, depending on the genre, I guess, will get like an episode apiece, right? So like, I would even argue that episode 3 was basically Nobara's episode, because not really a whole lot of anybody else, but like so that means in 2 episodes we got Itadori, we got Fujigaru, and we got Gojo, and like that's impressive. That's it for me to get to meet, learn about, and care about all 3 of those characters off the rip. I as far as pacing and stuff, again, we haven't read the manga, we haven't, I don't know where the story goes, and I'm hoping that wherever it goes, the anime is willing and able to capitalize, right, on sort of this, because they've gotten off on, like, they've gotten off on a great start. Like, this is a great jump to be in 3 episodes in. I do hope that they can keep it up and keep it going.
I agree. Excited to see where this show goes. Anyway, folks, those are our thoughts, our first impressions on the first 3 episodes of Jujutsu Kaisen. Again, let us know in those comments down below what you thought of these 3 episodes, what you thought about our discussion, and are you excited to see more on this topic? But until next time, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching, and we will catch you next time. Peace.
Peace.